We were Marines. We were infantrymen. Grunts. Survivors of a warrior culture present at the birth of our nation. We epitomized manhood. The main characters of all the war movies we'd seen growing up, the chiseled jawlines in every recruiting commercial, the hard men we'd all idolized, standing up to be recognized at baseball games or boarding first at the airport, that was us now. We joined to become men, to see some shit, to have a different story than all our friends that went away to college. We chose the hardest branch and the job of rifleman, thinking it would give us the best odds at all of that. But joining on the tail end of the war in Afghanistan, we've been trained, we've been hazed, and we've been told over and over again that we joined too late for any of the action. So when word came down that we were needed at some airfield in the Philippines for a no-shit live mission, our backs straightened and our chests puffed up, making room for the combat action ribbon, that last mark of authenticity saying we had the sack to actually do the thing. On the ground, live rounds weighed heavily in our magazines. But 3 weeks into the mission, we didn't act like the lethal and calculated warfighters we claimed to be on Facebook. After all, at 19, boyhood was just below the surface. Instead of scanning our sectors, the thermal binoculars were used for capturing pictures of us pissing on the flight line and teabagging the planes we were supposed to be guarding. When we were too tired to play, we instead thrust our hands deep in our pockets in search of the perfect story from high school or boot camp to mold ourselves into characters worthy of the costumes we wore now. Each story brought us closer. They all knew to keep me the hell away from fire extinguishers when I've been drinking. We knew about Kane's medicine woman grandmother, sending him alone into the Badlands on a psychedelic spirit journey at 14. And we knew at the end of anybody's story, we could count on a sarcastic jab from our big Texan, Adam. A single moped piped up above the faint happenings of the town beyond the airfield. We all turned our heads just in time to see its flickering headlight step out across the dark horizon onto our runway and start its charge towards us. As it ate up the night sky around it, we looked at each other, gave a nervous shrug, and turned to face the light. The moped's war cry was unwavering as its rider held the throttle wide open. My eyes felt like they doubled in size. My heartbeat thudded through every joint in my body. My temples, my neck, my palms. I felt it everywhere. I asked myself what to do, and before I could answer, I was calling in a report to the COC and Sergeant of the Guard. All the possible outcomes here played out in my mind, not in order, separate screens, all at once. 1, a combatant sliding up to our feet, dead. Medals written up for us all. An unarmed boy. 2, gargling out a call from Mom, as his joyride home from work was so rudely interrupted. 3rd, a suicide bomb that puts us all in the Wounded Warrior commercial or Arlington. Here it was, our ride to manhood quickly approaching. We were about to earn our 1,000-yard stares, our parking spots at Walmart. The headlight was now only 200 yards from us, burning through our night vision. Fuck this. This isn't how it's supposed to happen. It's supposed to be cut and dry. I'm supposed to know it's the bad guy, and I'm supposed to be the fucking hero. One of us pulled out a flashlight and set it to strobe. Maybe he doesn't know we're out here, he said. Upon seeing our light, the moped wavered for the first time. It sputtered and decelerated, then took the next taxiway, bounced across the grass, and left the airfield. Its diminishing exhaust note carrying with it all the tension of our brush with reality. Relief flooded me in pins and needles, and heat radiated off my overworked little heart, pushing out a cold sweat from head to toe. The adrenaline still pumping, our posturing resumed. Lucky motherfucker. A few more seconds and he would have been in pistol range. Yeah. That better not be our only shot. I will shit on all their pillows if first or third squad gets them before us. Nobody got any action. In the following weeks, the mission wrapped up, and soon after, the deployment. We returned to Virginia, where we would drink all night, watching videos of ISIS executions and police cam footage of shootings, and talk Glock versus Sig Sauer versus 1911, and how glad we were that we didn't join the Air Force or the Army or the Navy, because our dicks were way too big for that. Our platoon eventually disbanded, and we were all sent to infantry units in North Carolina and California to give the next batch of hungry little devil dogs a chance at proving themselves. I made it out to my new unit in California, kept drinking every damn night, talking like I wanted to kill people, saying how important training is because the order to pack your shit comes at you fast. I was still honing my craft, brushing up on land nav, teaching classes on tourniquet application, learning about all the fancy new optics we were getting. As an NCO, I took leading my Marines seriously, and I looked to the combat vets I knew for guidance. But I was burning out, gradually losing the hunger. 3 deployments of training ops and knee-grinding hikes was too much to pour into an enemy that I hadn't met, and probably never would. An enemy that, after the adrenaline was gone, would leave me just as broken as my old heroes, now off that pedestal as mentors and friends. After my last deployment, I picked up sergeant, got a cushy instructor job teaching rock climbing and other rope techniques for fighting in the mountains and inserting with helicopters. Forgetting I was teaching a combat skill set, I became obsessed with the knots and all the other technical skills for moving through the mountains. I poured myself into this job that didn't weigh down my soul with dreams of violence. I didn't even realize at first how much it was changing me. The man in the mirror seemed to look and talk the same, but staring back at me every day were my students. Peach fuzz, naive, unconvincingly bloodthirsty snapshots of myself from 4 years ago. Half their birthdays now were after 9/11. What could they possibly want to kill? That year, when I went home for Christmas, the question came. We all get it. Did you ever, did you ever see combat? Somebody else's voice came out of my mouth. Deeper, more sure of himself, he said. No, I was close to shooting somebody once, I think. But thank fuck that didn't happen. Never got shot at either. One weekend soon after that, I got to catching up with some civilian friends from high school who were visiting California. By this time, I was firmly excited on getting out, but they were asking questions that I didn't have answers for. What's next, man? I bet as a Marine you'd make a good cop if you thought of that. I hadn't thought of shit. Back at the barracks, I'd find the courage to look up universities or trade schools somewhere around beers 2 or 3. And in the morning, I'd wake up in my piss, another 12-pack down. The uniform fading away, I felt naked to the world. And with my EAS date rapidly approaching, I knew I needed clarity. So my good buddy Jose got a knock on his door and a request. Hey bro, I need you to check in on me this week. If you see me drinking, knock me the fuck out, I'm serious. You got it, Jefe. So it was decided then. I quit drinking in a pressure cooker of constipation and tossy-turny, moany nights, and teeth that ached like a swollen brain. And brain ached like shriveled teeth ready to fall out, away from the toxic breath it had been living in. Time passed quickly, and in this renaissance, I had rediscovered my boyhood passions of running and birds, and I called my mother more often. I took a terrifying, courageously honest look in the mirror and finally saw the insecure, sensitive, 100-pound boy that left for boot camp to try and bulk up with a flak and some medals. My compassion for him exploded outwards to all the other young men who set out in search of the same thing, but didn't come home from Vietnam and Iraq, or did come home, seemingly just as lost. Now, most of my generation never saw combat. We missed out. Hindsight says that's a good thing. But 22 veteran suicides a day didn't stop with the war. These victims of an incomplete definition of manhood, sold to our young boys by a country in need of volunteers, kept racking up. Every month or two, it seemed I'd see a barely familiar face on Instagram, or hear a name that rang a bell. Nobody close to me. It was usually a suicide. They always showed signs, but wouldn't ask for help. Their best friends only got the hard man facade we were told to put on. Then 2024 took 3 friends of mine. Started with Adam. When I got the call, his big block head came into my mind, and I could hear that sarcastic Texas drawl echoing in my ears. It was a suicide. His baby mama said, "Go kill yourself," so he did. He'd been down low, but nobody really knew how bad he was doing. Spent all week on the phone with voices I hadn't heard in years. It was Kane who asked me if I still thought about killing people. Surprised, I said, "Yeah, not that I want to anymore, it's just always there." "Me too, buddy." We trained to hate for so long, choosing to love doesn't come easy. As close as we thought we'd been before, I felt like I was just getting to know the real men I served with. So when I showed up to the funeral outside of Dallas, all those filthy mouths I remembered from 8 years ago spoke so softly to their wives, and the crazy eyes I remembered now twinkled for their new sons, already growing boys themselves. But after the 21-gun salute, I stood defeated. As Adam's 5-year-old son smiled from ear to ear, eyes fixed on the shining medals and the stoic, chiseled jaw, handing him the folded flag. The cycle was starting over again. My mind was screaming at this younger version of us, saying, "Turn around, little boy. We are right behind you." Crying the same manly tears shed for every generation before you. Hoping, against the odds, that yours can break this chain.